Hello, and welcome back to Talk to Miguel, where every story matters. I try to do an interview weekly, but today I'm doing something a little different. I always say everyone has a story to tell, and today I'm starting a series featuring inspirational people to help share their stories. The first person I will feature is Wangari Maathai, the woman who planted hope. Imagine a world where one woman, armed with nothing but determination and a few tree saplings, could change the course of an entire nation. Sounds impossible, right? Well, that's exactly what Wangari Maathai did. And today I will delve into her story. This is a story of resilience, trees, and how one person can make a difference. Now I have to admit that I did not know anything about Wangari Maathai before preparing for this feature. However, I had heard about her work. Wangari Maathai was born in 1940 in a village of Hythe, Kenya. She grew up in a rural farming community where nature was an integral part of life. She would often help her family on the farm, surrounded by lush greenery, clean rivers, and rich soil. But as she grew older, things started to change. Deforestation and poor land management led to the rivers drying up, the soil losing its fertility, and communities struggled to grow food. This left a deep mark on her. Her early exposure to the natural world planted the seeds of her passion, but it wasn't until later in life that she realized the connection between environmental health and the well being of people. She once said, "When we plant trees, we plant the seeds of peace and hope." That belief stayed with her forever. Wangari's journey really took off when she had a chance to study abroad. Through a scholarship program, she left Kenya and attended college in the United States during the 1960s. She studied biology, earning a degree in Mount St. Scholastica College in Kansas, and later went on to complete her master's in Pittsburgh. This exposure to education and global issues opened her eyes to what was possible. But what truly sparked her passion for environmental activism came when she returned home. She saw firsthand the devastating impact of deforestation and land degradation caused by colonial farming practices, overgrazing, and rapid urbanization. The land she remembered as a child, full of life and abundance, was disappearing. It wasn't just about environment anymore. She saw how this ecological destruction was directly affecting the women in her community. They had to walk farther to fetch water. Firewood was scarce and food insecurity was rising. This realization that people, particularly women, were bearing the brunt of environmental destruction was her trigger. She couldn't stand by and watch. She wanted to act. In 1977, Wangari decided to take a simple yet profound step. She started planting trees. That is how the Greenbelt movement began. It wasn't just about reforesting Kenya. It was about empowering women to take charge of their environment and their futures. She encouraged women in rural areas to plant trees around their homes and villages, which restored the land and provided firewood, food, and income. Wangari believed in solutions that were practical and community driven. She said, "You cannot protect the environment unless you empower the people, inform them, and help them understand that these resources are their own." This philosophy resonated deeply, and soon the movement spread across Kenya. Of course, her journey wasn't easy. Speaking truth to power rarely is. Wangari faced enormous resistance from the Kenyan government, which viewed her work as a threat. She was arrested multiple times, labeled as dissident, a madwoman, and even physically attacked during protests. One of her most notable battles was in Nairobi's Uhuru Park, where she fought to stop the government backed project as they attempted to build luxury housing on public green space. Standing against bulldozers, often alone, she said, "I'm doing something that's going to benefit generations to come. If that's being a mad woman, then I'm happy to be mad." That determination made her unstoppable. In 2004, Wangari Maathai's work was recognized globally when she became the first African woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize. The Nobel Committee acknowledged her contribution to sustainable development, democracy, and peace, highlighting the profound connection between environmental health and human rights. Wangari Maathai passed away in September 2011 at the age of 71 after a battle with ovarian cancer, but she left a lasting legacy. Wangari Maathai's Greenbelt movement was more than just an environmental initiative. It was a social revolution. The long-term impact of her work continues to shape conservation, community empowerment, and resilience in Kenya and beyond. Now, here are 6 ways that she left a legacy and the long-term impact of those 6 ways. One, massive reforestation and environmental restoration. The Green Belt movement planted over 50 million trees in Kenya. These trees prevent soil erosion, restore watersheds, and improve biodiversity. Forest cover in Kenya, which had drastically declined, was partially recovered due to these efforts. Now, the long term impact: sustainable land use practices are still in place. Communities are less vulnerable to droughts and climate change due to improved water retention. Number two, community empowerment and women's rights. Wangari's movement focused on women led reforestation efforts, providing rural women with income opportunities through tree nurseries, educational conservation, and sustainable farming, a legacy of agency and leadership in their communities. Now, the long term impact of that is women participation in environmental and political activism has increased. The Greenbelt movement continues to empower new generations of female activists, environmentalists. Number three, policy influence and government adoption. Wangari's work pressured the Kenyan government to adopt pro forest policies. Today, Kenya has bans on deforestation in some areas and stronger environmental laws. The long term impact: the Kenyan Forest Service and other agencies now focus on conservation driven policies. International organizations like the UN Environmental Program has embraced community driven reforestation models inspired by the Greenbelt movement. Number four, global environmental awareness and movements. The Greenbelt movement's success inspired similar programs worldwide. Countries across Africa, Latin America, and Asia have adopted community-based reforestation projects. Her message lives on through global initiatives like the UN's Billion Tree Campaign and the Great Green Wall in Africa. A long-term impact: Wangari Maathai's model continues to influence climate change mitigation efforts globally. Many tree planting initiatives today integrate community participation, gender equality, and sustainability, principles she pioneered. Nobel Peace Prize and eco-activism legacy. Wangari's 2004 Nobel Peace Prize cemented the link between environmental conservation and peace. She inspired a new generation of African environmentalists, activists, and leaders. Long term impact: many young African climate activists, such as Vanessa Nakate from Uganda, hope I have massacred her name, and Elizabeth Wathuti from Kenya, cite her as an inspiration. Organizations worldwide use her model to fight deforestation, change, and social injustice. Number six, urban green spaces and public park protection. Wangari fought against deforestation in urban areas, saving Uhuru Park in Nairobi from destruction. Today, there's a greater public awareness and activism around preserving green spaces in Kenyan cities. Long term impact: Uhuru Park and Karura Forest, which Wangari helped protect, remains important public spaces in Nairobi. Kenyan urban planning now incorporates more environmental considerations. Final thoughts on her legacy. Wangari Maathai didn't just plant trees, she planted hope, resilience, and activism. Her work continues to reshape environmental policies and empower communities to inspire global action. So, what can we take away from Wangari Maathai's story? Here are three things I can think of. Firstly, start where you are. You don't need a big title or tons of money to make a difference. Wangari started with one tree and one idea. Second, find your why. For her, it was seeing how deforestation hurt the people she loved. When you find a cause that connects deeply with your values, it becomes a force that drives you forward. Third, think long term. The trees Wangari planted were never just for her, they were for generations to come. Let's think about how our actions today shape the future. So tell me, what's your small act of change? Maybe it's planting a tree, maybe it's starting a community project. So let's talk about it in the comments. And if you found this story inspiring, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share because stories like Wangari's, they deserve to be heard. If you know of any other inspirational person you would like me to feature, tell me about it in the comments as well. Thanks again for joining me today and see you in the next episode. And again, remember, if you haven't subscribed yet, like and subscribe.